Cosmic here, welcome back to the channel, and today we finally have the first look at the North American Union Arena meta with the event from Egman. Had 60 players, and well, it went just about as we would have expected, or at least we hinted at for the videos leading up to this one, talking about the overall meta. Now, if you missed out on the action, don't worry, I will put a link to his video in the pinned comments where you can go check out some of those gameplay. We'll have some more gameplay on the channel soon, but really just going to take this video to talk about the different lists at top and kind of thoughts on the meta overall for month one. Now, yes, again, I do want to immediately add the disclaimer, right? Is compared to other trading card games that you might have played, with JJK coming out, and I just think 4 weeks from the time of this recording going live, it's going to be constantly evolving and constantly changing. So yes, things like Ichigo and Kurapika are going to continue to be good, especially with Volume 2 for Purple Bleach gets a nice buff, but we'll have to continue to see what decks people are playing and seeing what other type of events that we get to do, like Egman, or going towards Orlando, where we're going to have the first big, like properly big, 256 player events, which I'm really curious to see what comes out on top. So that said, this is the top 8 just being dominated by Purple Bleach. We had 4 of those lists, which is a small disclaimer I will add here, as I'll get into when we actually talk about the list, is it was a team all playing the same exact 50 card deck. So generally when that happens, you do see an inflated number of top cut representation when a team brings a particular deck that does well. But the Kurapika and then also Green Bleach rounding it out for your top 8 cut, probably not surprising overall. I didn't think that last spot for Green Bleach could have gone a couple different ways. We're going to talk about an honorable mention at the end here that also went X2. And then overall here on the right, you can see the general breakdown of the field itself. So again, no real surprise, Kurapika and Ichigo kind of being the top 2. This is something we've spent a lot of time talking about and leading up to. Obviously, with Bleach getting hit, maybe some people didn't think it was still going to be as good as it is, but shocker, it's still a very strong deck. But then the other one is Kurapika getting a slight buff. It was already the best green deck, and I think this just really solidifies its spot kind of in the field. So be it both, what are the more popular characters from these shows, as well as being good decks, I think that's playing a large role of why we see these two take up the majority of the format. And then we see a good amount of representation for Green Bleach. I'm sure some of those are going to be, hybrid variants between lower to the ground Toshiro, and then Toshiro plus some of the other SRs that we can run. But Toshiro is kind of the key glue holding all the various builds that at least I've seen so far that have been doing well, kind of holding it together. And then of course some Phantom Troop, and then this last little marker here is just other, just to say, hey, there was some yellow Bleach being played and some other decks that kind of got in there. But again, from a overall first tournament meta, this is definitely kind of what we'd expect, and depending on when the next events come out, or how things line up, if we do one after JJK, I am not going to be surprised at all if this entire chunk just gets swapped out for Sukuna, unless there's still some sort of, day one restriction. But on that note as well, it is just insanely popular, at least from what I've seen on every social media platform, what I'm hearing locally. I think JJK is going to be massive in terms of, overall players coming into the game, just way bigger than Bleach. And then the other one is Sword Art Online just got confirmed as well, which is, again, I'm not personally a big fan of it. Shout out Log Horizon.hack sort of things, but it is undeniably one of the biggest sets in Union Arena in terms of players and sales. So shocker, it's going to be another really big buff. And also it has a really fun deck. Like Blue Sword Art Online is actually super fun to play. So even if I'm not the biggest fan of it, I just enjoy playing fun decks. And it's also probably like a high tier 2 is what'll, assuming no changes will come in at. But that's a topic for a future video. With that out of the way, let's just get into the top 8 results and showcase some of these brews. So first and foremost, huge shout out to Atrocious Jake, which they're actually a One Piece player that dived into Union Arena. So of course, always love to see more people checking out Union Arena. Definitely go support their channel as well. And spoiler, hopefully they're going to do a video on this as well. Of course, at the time of recording this, there's nothing up, but I'm going to include the little shout out here anyways for their channel. But this one is really interesting because we've seen so many deck list, guilty, all things considered, but for Volume 1 Bleach, a lot of what we saw in the Japan meta was all around the higher end with the Raid Ichigo from the main set, as well as the Bakuya from the main set as well, being the top energy threshold, because the format was a little bit slower. You had higher BP characters you really wanted to remove, where those can really excel at. However, Renji, if you want to play a more aggressive strategy, which hint, hint, is something that we're going to see in Volume 2 Bleach, Renji fills a very good role, and it especially can prey on decks that have those 3K or weaker setups like Phantom Troop, and as we covered in other videos, and especially Bomberman can kind of fill that role as well, or Blue Hunter, where if your opponent has just a lot of 3Ks that they're trying to stabilize with, or they have one good 4K blocker, you go, okay, I'm gonna make that 4K blocker a 1K, and now all my attacks are live again, and that can apply a lot of pressure. Outside of that, from just what are some of the other cards, the one that will stick out here is the 4-cost Ichigo, and this one is from the starter. And if you don't know already, this is something that you're going to want 4 copies of before Volume 2 drops, so please make sure you get your playsets. And, well, if you're like me and wanted to have all foils, yes, I had to buy 4 starter decks, but I wanted to make sure I had 4 foils, so I had to grab all of those. But otherwise, a fairly standard in terms of what we've seen from, what are your early game energy stabilizers, right? We have the filtering. Again, shout out to my deck building video. I kind of always reference it, but a lot of the principles that you're going to see in these lists go all the way back to that deck building video where it's like, okay, we have the filter ones, we have the raid fodder 0, so we automatically are going to include those. We have the color Ichigo, which is really important for filtering in the deck now because we don't have the as much consistency for the Rukia top end as we'd like. We're playing the double energy. We're playing the attacker that can go to 4K because it's really good early play while being aggressive. And then you just have the raid targets at the top end. This is a very clean-cut deck list that we would expect from the more aggressive half of the Purple Bleach strategy, where the other Bleach deck that a lot of people have been playing is going to be generally a turn or a turn and a half slower, depending on what your openers look like, where this Renji can really capitalize on it. And also it is just sometimes a 4K that can threaten double damage. So something else to keep in mind is that, Union Arena itself as a game where 4K dictates a lot of the flow of battle, and that's kind of the one checkpoint until we get some of these, more controlling decks. Like I think Yellow Sword Art Online is a good one. Just go back to that reference. And like Tales of Arise, rest in peace. I don't think we're going to get that set, but we are missing some of those like 5K double blocker synergies type of decks that could, wall off something like this. But for now, at least it's going to be a lot of focus on 4K. And then with Yuji coming in JJK here just in, again, a few short weeks, the 4K pop on defense is going to be really huge. So with that, for Atrocious Jake, again, hope they do a video. Shout out if they do. I'll make sure to drop a link for it, into the comments section as well. And shout out to their team who all went, I think they said 16-2 overall. Like the other 2 decks went 5-1. They had an insane record, so huge shout out to that team. Going on from there, we have the first different, other than Purple Bleach, we have Michael here playing the Green Bleach effect. And again, this is all about getting the value off Toshiro, making sure you're able to freeze their board. Once you have the 7 total, so it's, 6, you play a Toshiro, 6 other, 13 court guards, you get to freeze something down and can make it really difficult for your opponent to promote out of their back line and can sometimes force them to just take an entire turn off. And when you're able to follow that up with big threats like the Kenpachi combo going into removal plus impact, we have this Shinji, which is able to give something impact as well, just to get those last couple points of damage. This is very much what you would want to see. Now, the one thing I will say about this list in particular, the one thing that I always keep going back to that I really have to stress, and I think it is hard to play the full 4, but man, Unohana, because again, I didn't play a lot of the Green Bleach deck when I was playing the Japan format. I strictly played Purple Bleach because Purple and Blue are usually the 2 decks I play the most of in Union Arena based on the decks they are, other than Green, which is technically my favorite because of what the top end flashy side does, which probably a longer explanation, but if like Kurapika and some of the later stuff we get, But Unohana is just so important in being able to refill your board and making sure that you're hitting these very high-end requirements that I so badly want to find a list where I can just always jam 4 of this. Because again, no matter which version of Green Bleach you're playing, it is one of the most important cards just to make sure you can refill your board and hit that very high requirement of having 7 of your 8 slots filled on the board. And again, if you're going against Purple Bleach, that can be extremely difficult as they're constantly removing your threats. Other than that, again, Kenpachi being a key point that we want to be playing. They elected not to go with the combo here with the 1 energy that gets to restand and attack right away, but sometimes just the extra removal is good enough. And then we have a little bit of a different event lineup, but generally speaking, freezing the board, making sure you're finding ways to get that double damage in, and then having at least some access to impact at the top end just to close out that last point of damage when you need. So congrats on the Green Bleach going 5-1. Moving on from there, we have another Purple Bleach list with Osmar going 5-1. Again, the double Ichigo package here, but with Soifan being an interesting one as well. Again, trying to lean more on the earlier raids that you want to set up. Again, just attacking with 4K bodies can be really good, but then still having things like the Department of Research and Development just for a little bit filtering, a little bit more graveyard fill, but again, still heavily relying on things like the color Ichigo, the bouncer and discarder, right? Finding ways to make sure that we're getting our graveyard filled, or I should say sideline filled, to make sure we're able to use those top end effects. And again, Ichigo being your premium removal, or I should say 5 Ichigo being your premium removal, where 4 Ichigo is just a way to get impact on the top end, but also notably it does draw you a card, which can really help as you're trying to be more efficient with your action points, right? As you've probably been playing a little bit more Union Arena now, there are going to be multiple turns back to back where you just have to take the turn off to draw a card. And that can feel pretty bad depending on what tempo state you're at in the game. But then you have decks like Purple, which are really good at drawing through or filtering with either attacks or on-play effects. We have things like Bomber, or just Blue Hunter. Hunter in general has a billion different ways to draw, which can then mean you're more free to use your action points for extending your board, getting those 4K attackers, right? That's another good example of being more efficient with your cards when played effects to keep your hand full or to control the board. It can be really, really good in this game. And Purple Bleach, again, just kind of being an all-star of why we see it being so good here, of just taking so many slots in the top 8 cut. Now getting into Anto, so another shout out for another content creator here who's been starting up their, both starting up their content creation journey and has been really enjoying Union Arena, is we have Anto playing the green Kurapika, making it. So again, we're going to see a slew here of green Kurapikas. And for maybe those that don't know, this is more of your late game strategy, survive type of deck, where you have Kurapika being a 5K body that on defense, it can also effectively save you 2 life due to the effect and being a 5K body, but then also offensively, it is just extra removal and it has impact, so it is a constant threat at closing out the game. And then also the 5 energy Kurapika is, while conditional, still going to have impact and also help you with filtering. So in a combination of the Kurapikas you have to close out the game, Neon is going to help you find the pieces that you're missing, or just going Neon into Kurapika raid could be extremely strong, because it then also gives you that energy requirement that you need, where on the next turn, your Kurapikas, or maybe if you play them the turn before, those 5 Kurapikas are also going to be live for that impact. So sequencing is very important in this style of deck, and admittedly, this is a deck that you have to be comfortable from playing from behind a little bit if you don't find those like perfect curve openers. But once you get established, once you're able to find those Kurapikas and get all your energy, and then you're constantly swinging with like the 4Ks from the 3 energy Kurapika, Leorio can definitely be a very big threat himself with getting extra card draw, having impact, and then of course just having the Emperor time is really the thing that kind of sticks with me. Like having Emperor time in the new Kurapika, that is just a dangerous combo to have to deal with. So again, very solid, definitely something that we're going to see more of. I don't know when the next Egman event is going to be, but huge shout out to Anto with the Kurapika deck. This is something that is not going anywhere anytime soon, especially in the JJK format. So definitely look forward to playing this one at your locals. Kind of going into a few more variations here, we have Ming Lee, who went for the Ponzu, which is just a free block. I shouldn't say free, but a 0 energy block that draws a card, so just getting more of the filtering options. But then otherwise, notably no Hisoka here for the top end off of Neon, but we do have 4 Neon for the energy Kurapika, 4 of the Leorio, which does have the active trigger, which is pretty good. If you saw our Gone in Friends video, and definitely a deck I want to go back to is focusing on this guy. And then again, just the Kurapika for board control and having the Emperor's time at the top end to go with the other Kurapikas is quite strong for the, again, snipe and impact, closing out a game, and really making sure that you're able to threaten multiple points of damage in a turn, despite your opponent maybe having blockers. And then lastly, really quick, we're just going through these rapid fire. We have Zach with another green Kurapika list, taking the other spot, which this one does have the Hisoka here at the end. So again, Neon, her main effect is you're going to search for some cards. You're going to find something that says 1 action point required. As long as you have the energy, you play it, and you can make sure it attacks that same turn. So that's why we want to play a higher threshold of things like the Basho or Hisoka or the other, 7 Kurapika or 5 Kurapika, but really just able to give you that double energy that you so desperately need to play the game, as it were, for the green Kurapika deck, but then also hopefully find some key pieces that can get you back in the game. And Basho is a really good one because it does have the step mechanic, which allows you during movement phase to move it back to your energy line. So it threatens a attack, a block, as then it can go back to your energy line for when you need to curve into things like the Neon if you're playing for the first time. So definitely keep in mind that step. And for all green decks in general, step is a very important mechanic to know how to use and what cards are good in that regard. So definitely Bash is one to look forward to in future, future titles in terms of what version of Basho do we get, because it is just such a strong enabler for these green strategies. And then, of course, we do see the Mito here as well, giving a little bit of a pump in case we need to get the Kurapika trigger online for the impact, or if we just want to get another buff somewhere in the field to make sure we are hitting that 5K as needed in case you're playing into a Kurapika mirror. Getting multiple 5K swings then can be really important in case they are about to wall you out. And then last but not least, do want to give a shout out to Diego, who technically went 4-2 as well, so same record as some of these other lists that we were just talking about, but they finished 17th based on breakers with Purple Hybrid. And as I just mentioned, covered this in the video, which is why this is my favorite version of it. I think, I still have to figure out the Zeno versus Phaeton. I talked about this during my 30-minute Purple Hybrid deep dive, so definitely look forward to that video if you want to know my thoughts on the deck in general. But just, again, for where the format is lined up, you have to play Dragon's Head right now. Like, Kurapika is just going to wall you out otherwise, or you have to rely on, like, 3-card combos. And then also Zeno. Zeno, I think it can be a really important card here for just giving you that extra removal, and also is very easy to activate Illumi's ability, so you're drawing a bunch of cards. So if you just want to play something different and have a ton of removal and be able to threaten double damage very early on and pressure your opponent, definitely make sure to check out this list. Again, it's probably one of my favorite decks to play in the current format, just because of all the very different combos you can pull off, all the different draw effects you get. You just get to see so much of your deck every single game, and in a best of one format, I do think that's really important, where consistency can be king, even if the deck is notably a little bit weaker than some of the raids, like out of Purple Bleach, that again, I talk about in detail in that video, but definitely one to, look forward to. And Crollo is going up to like $9 now. I think it was like $4 a couple days ago. So with Hunter x Hunter getting opened less, if you are looking to get these singles, I definitely would recommend still picking them up. But Bleach, on the other hand, like, people are still buying Bleach boxes and getting, finding the packs at Targets and all that stuff, that there is still a healthy amount of cards moving from Bleach. But Hunter x Hunter is definitely starting to slow down a little bit. So if you haven't picked up some of those other SRs, definitely do recommend checking that out. But with that, that is the full top 8 quick breakdown. Again, huge shout out to Atrocious Jake and their team for taking out the 16-2 impressive record overall, but bringing a slightly different flavor of Purple Bleach than what we've been seeing. It is something that we'll see a lot more in Volume 2, or maybe in our next event, we'll see even more of the kind of lower to the ground Bleach aggression strategies instead of the top end, which really, kind of battled against the 5K wall meta like they had in Japan. So definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which is your favorite deck from this event, or what decks you are currently enjoying? And again, more gameplay and all that good stuff to come soon, but really quickly want to throw together this video. And again, huge shout out to Egman for putting on these events and making sure that players have the opportunity to play outside of their locals. And hopefully I'm working on getting some prize support for some future events of his to get you like the winter promos and stuff. So I'm going to talk to a couple stores and try to make that happen as well. But again, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video. And again, lots more Union Arena content to look forward to. But until then, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.